So Pokemon news has been a little dry lately, as we haven't really had a ton of information regarding the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC, which is going to be coming out sometime towards the end of the year. We've got the first pack coming out in the fall, and the second one coming out in the winter, but it looks like now we might have had some information come out about what exactly the next Pokemon game could be, even after this Scarlet and Violet DLC, and it is getting a ton of people excited because it is sounding really insane if this all ends up being true, so I do want to talk about this and give you guys my thoughts. Now, if you haven't seen the last video I made talking about the possibility of the next Pokemon game, there should be a little eye up in the corner, so you can go ahead and click on that, but I'll also put it in the outro of this video if you want to go and watch it after you're done watching this one. But basically, the most accurate leaker that we have right now when it comes to Pokemon is somebody on Twitter by the name of Riddler Khu. And this has been a leaker who has been giving accurate, correct information about Pokemon games ever since like 2021, where he's gotten stuff correct about Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, Pokemon Legends Arceus, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and he's even started teasing about the Scarlet and Violet DLC and stuff, and now he's even started talking about potentially what the next Pokemon game could be. And in his last couple of tweets, he was talking about how one of the characters that we're going to meet inside of the Scarlet and Violet DLC is actually going to be very important with the lore, and is even going to be tied into the next Pokemon game, so a lot of people were getting excited at the possibility that when this DLC comes out, we could be looking for hints and things that could talk about what the next game could be. But then he also started talking about possibilities for this next game, and that's what got many people very excited. And so after giving more teases and potential hints about what exactly this next Pokemon game could be, it seems like hype is now pretty much through the roof as people have started putting the puzzle pieces together and might have figured out exactly what we could expect. And as crazy as it is to believe, it looks like the next Pokemon game is in fact going to be set in Unova. So when I first saw all of this information, I was extremely shocked because I just find it so hard to believe that we could really be going to the Unova region as early as next year with the next Pokemon game, as pretty much whenever we've had these Pokemon remakes of like older Pokemon games, there's always a good amount of time that goes by before we get to the next region. Like of course the very first remakes that we got were Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green with the Kanto remakes, and those came out in 2004. And then it was 5 years later where in 2009 we got Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and those were our Johto remakes. And then it took another 5 years from that to go into the Hoenn remakes with Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And really after those came out, everybody was like, okay, it's finally time for Sinnoh. Sinnoh confirmed, Gen 4 remakes were finally here. But it took a really long time to go from that to getting Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which were the Gen 4 Sinnoh remakes, and those came out in 2021. So from 2014 with Hoenn and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, it took 7 years to go to Pokemon BDSP. And so using that, it's kind of, I would say, logical to assume that we would probably go for like another 5 to 7 years before we get to anything with Unova. So now hearing that Unova is going to be potentially in 2024 is just really kind of insane. So the reason why everybody is talking about this is if we actually break down all the stuff that Riddler Khu has kind of been teasing in his replies and giving hints about the next Pokemon game, it leads us to this right here, which Soul Silver kind of basically put everything together nicely, so thank you for that. It just says here, potential huge spoilers. I think I may have cracked Khu's riddle on one of the things the Indigo Disc characters being a big spoiler for the games after Sudachi, which is the Scarlet and Violet DLC. After Khu's Iris/Drayden hint, plus his previous Gen 5 pull, plus the Gen 5 past and future themes that we see in Opeloused City, called Time's Dividing Line in Japanese, the city where the past and future intertwine, and we see the Black City and White Forest, I think it's nearly impossible to deny what's coming next year, and that the whole plot may revolve around these characters and their connection to the ultimate dragon lore. So this is really insane because all the stuff that Riddler Khu, who has been very accurate and has been teasing, is stuff that's actually revolving around Gen 5. And so we have right here, which is Opeloused City inside of Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. Now, this was really cool because one of the coolest things about Gen 5 with this city is that it's completely different depending on which version of the game that you have. So if you had Pokemon Black 2, it's all futuristic looking, as you can see right here. But if you have Pokemon White 2, it's all set in the past with like these ancient looking buildings. So it is really, really cool. And the city's name in Japanese is literally called Time's Dividing Line. Like, you've got one in the future and one in the past, which is really, really cool. Even the gym leaders themselves are different inside of these versions, which was, I think, this was the first ever game, I think, that did version exclusive gym leaders. It wasn't Sword and Shield like some people think, so you actually had Drayden inside of Pokemon Black, and then you had Iris inside of Pokemon White, which was really, really cool. And yeah, I mean, we even have like these differences like with the futuristic Black City inside of Pokemon Black, and then you've got these past like White Forest inside of Pokemon White version. So they did do a lot of stuff with kind of past and future inside of Gen 5, even though it was really until Scarlet and Violet where we had like the past and future with like Professor Sada and Professor Turo and all of that. So maybe it is actually going to be connected in some way. And that puts us right here to this Central Leaks post right here, where they were talking about how in 2022, we got Pokemon Legends Arceus, which was a game about the past. It was a game where you play in like very ancient Sinnoh, where the concept of a Pokeball has just been created, and it was really cool to kind of play through that ancient game. Then you've got Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which is basically kind of like the present. You've got the stuff that is happening in present day, but they have like a time machine, which is sending Pokemon from the past and the future. And then in 2024, maybe this Unova game is going to be in the future. It's going to be a very futuristic Unova game where you're going to go to the Unova region maybe in the future, and that's where you're going to have these characters from the Scarlet and Violet DLC. Maybe the characters that we're going to meet in the DLC are going to be tied into the lore in that way, and we're going to see them appear in that game. And that would be insane, because that would be them kind of going through this theme that they're going through right now with the past, present, and the future. So maybe that is exactly what their plan is. And it's just crazy to believe that we really could be going to the Unova region next year. Now, of course, it is important to mention right here, this is speculation. And somebody even said here, Gen 5 remakes already. They're saying not a remake. And honestly, this would be true. This doesn't sound like it would be a Gen 5 remake. So it's not going to be like Pokemon BDSP, which thank God, because honestly, my favorite Pokemon character ever is Skyla. And if I saw her appear like this, I would be very upset. So thank you. It's not going to be a remake, but this is exciting because it could be really, really cool depending on how they go about it. Like a Unova game, but that's going to be set in the future. And if it's going to be more kind of like Pokemon Legends Arceus style, but like in the future now, where you still are going to be finding Pokemon roaming around and you can throw the Pokeball, it's going to be more action focused. If they decide to take that approach, this could very well be the best Pokemon game ever. Like it has a really good chance of being the best Pokemon game ever. And especially if they could like still have gyms that are a part of it, a story around it, and you still go around on your adventure. And especially if it's going to be futuristic, then that means you're going to have like cities and civilizations that you can actually go and discover. And I think that's what's going to be so cool, because the one thing that I didn't really like that much about Pokemon Legends Arceus was you didn't really have like a lot of little towns and cities and stuff that you could go to. It was basically just Jubilee Village, which was like your hub world that you had at your base. But besides that, it was just other kind of wild areas that you would find other Pokemon in. So if you could actually have like a futuristic city where there's going to be lots of different little towns and cities and places that you can go to inside of this game, and it's going to be action focused with Pokemon all over and stuff, this could be a very, very cool game. Now, I've seen some people talking about the Pokedex as well, where whenever we're going to have a Pokemon game set in another region, usually what they try to do is have very few Pokemon from that region in the Pokemon games that come out before. Like in Pokemon Sword and Shield, there were very few Sinnoh Pokemon, and that was because the games that came after were Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl and Pokemon Legends Arceus. And a lot of people have noticed that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have very few Gen 5 Pokemon. Like I think after Kalos, it is the second least like represented generation in terms of the Pokemon, so maybe that is a hint that there is going to be a Unova focused game that's going to be coming out next year. Another thing that some people may have forgotten about is Ingo. In Pokemon Legends Arceus, you actually got to meet Ingo from the Unova region, which was so bizarre because it was a whole like little side story about how Ingo basically got transferred here from some random event that happened, and he just woke up inside of this region and he had no clue what was going on. He just remembered his name, and he became like one of these characters that's just like part of this Hisui region, which was so bizarre because everybody who knows Ingo knows that he was a subway boss from Pokemon Black and White. And now that I think about it, what if this is all connected in some way, where maybe like this is actually going to be like a plot point, or maybe it's even going to be brought up again, where we're going to see this inside of the Unova game, where maybe we're going to meet Emmett and he's going to talk about what happened to Ingo, or we just see Ingo himself or something. Like I feel like now maybe that was a hint at something that we're going to see in the future. There's just so many possibilities. And so it'll be interesting to see how they treat this Unova game, if it is going to be a real thing, where if we're going to see like this futuristic game set in Unova come out next year, is this going to count as our Gen 5 remakes, where we're not going to see like a traditional remake of Pokemon Black and White? And I think that might be for the best, because whenever it comes to talking about Gen 5 remakes, there are so many people that are always just saying like Gen 5 is already really good, it still holds up really well to this day, it doesn't need remakes. And to be honest, I do agree with that. Like, I feel like you could still play Pokemon Black and White, the original cartridges, right now, and they still hold up really well. They're still very playable. Like, they don't really feel that outdated, so maybe it's possible that they don't really need to do like a Gen 5 remake. And honestly, if they could just port those games over to the Switch somehow or something like that, that would be really cool. But also at the same time, I just feel like doing something like this would be much more creative, and it could be really cool. And one of the things that people were talking about with Gen 5 remakes was, if they did do like a traditional remake, would they still have stuff from Pokemon Black and White and then also the sequels in it, or would it just be like just the base game and not have anything to do with Black 2 and White 2? That would also kind of suck if that was the case too, so maybe this is going to be the way that they're going to go about it. But of course, all of this is just potential leaks and speculation and rumors and all of that at the end of the day, but it is going to be interesting to see what they do for the next Pokemon game after the Scarlet and Violet DLC, and if it is really going to be set in Unova, and we're going to start to see hints for that when this DLC comes out, because it does make me very excited. I really do love the Unova region, and I think it has some really cool characters, probably the best story in Pokemon when it comes to the mainline game, so I'm going to be very excited to see what they decide to do with it, if we are going to be seeing like this Paradox futuristic Unova type of game coming out next year. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely be sure to click that like button, and also subscribe to the channel, as I am going to be talking more about Pokemon stuff as it is going to be coming out, so definitely make sure you don't miss out on that. Comment down below and let me know how you guys feel about all of this too. Would you guys be excited if we do get like this Paradox futuristic Unova type of game coming out next year? Go follow me on Twitter at Aero so you can be featured in videos, and also join my Discord server as well. We've got a bunch of people in there who are always talking about Pokemon and Smash Bros and Nintendo, so definitely be sure to join that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.